Hello everyone, I'm Kendi. In today's video, I'm going to show you a unique and efficient way to repair large holes in interior walls. This is not a traditional method, but I discovered this technique while renovating my house and I'm excited to share it with you. Compared to conventional repair techniques, this method is faster and easier, stronger and more durable, applicable to both drywall and concrete walls. Sounds too good to be true, right? But let's get started. Step 1. Preparing for the repair. If you have seen my previous video, I recently removed a ceiling fan and now I need to take out this light switch as well. Once it's gone, there will be a large hole left behind, which we need to repair. For this project, we're going to need a measuring tape, screwdriver, utility knife, sandpaper, pencil, a small piece of scrap drywall, joint compound plaster and putty knife, paint and brush, masking tape. This is so that if there are any areas where you don't want paint to spread, they're protected. Before starting, always turn off the main power supply for your own safety. Now we're going to use a screwdriver to remove the switch cover. Then unscrew and detach the switch from the wall. After that, you're going to disconnect the wiring and push the wires back into the wall as they're no longer needed. Next, remove the switch box from the wall opening, then use your putty knife to scrape and smooth the edges of the hole, removing any loose material. Now that the damage is done, let's move on to the repair process. Step 2. Understanding the traditional repair method. The conventional way to repair large holes, which I showed in my ceiling repair video, involves first inserting a wooden strip inside the hole and securing it with screws, then attaching a drywall patch to the wooden strip, then finally filling the gaps with joint compound and sanding the surface. Now while this method does work, it's more time consuming. Instead, I'll show you a faster and simpler method. Step 3. Cutting and preparing the drywall patch. First, you need to find a scrap piece of drywall that is slightly larger than the hole so it can completely cover it. Second, you'll use a measuring tape to measure the hole dimensions and draw the correct shape onto the drywall piece. Third, double check the measurements before cutting. Then, using a utility knife, carefully scrape a line on the surface layer of the drywall paper. Do not cut too deep. Next, break the drywall along the score line, but do not tear the paper backing. The goal is to remove only the gypsum core, leaving the paper intact. Then, if there are any rough edges, trim them with your utility knife. Now you should have a drywall patch with a paper border, which will help it blend seamlessly into the wall. That brings us to step 4, attaching the patch to the wall. First, you're going to take some joint compound and spread it around the edges of the patch using a putty knife. Then, flip the patch over and press it into the hole, ensuring the paper edges sit flush against the wall. Third, use a putty knife to smooth out the joint compound and remove any air bubbles. Finally, apply additional joint compound over the edges and feather it out to blend with the surrounding wall. If the surface isn't perfectly smooth, don't worry, we'll sand it later. Now let's wait for the compound to fully dry before proceeding to the next step. Step 5. Sanding and painting. Once the compound is completely dry, we're going to use some sandpaper to smooth out any rough edges. Then wipe away any dust from your sanding. Then it's time to apply the first coat of paint over your repaired area. Since joint compound absorbs moisture, it's essential to apply at least 2 coats of paint before even coverage. Next, while we wait for the first coat to dry, we're going to use some masking tape to protect our nearby surfaces, such as door frames. Apply the second coat of paint, starting with a thicker layer on the repaired area, and using a semi-dry brush to feather out the edges. This helps blend the colour, making the repaired section less noticeable. At first, the new paint may look slightly different from the surrounding wall. Don't worry, the final colour will appear more uniform once the paint is fully dry. Step 6. Repairing a hole in a concrete wall. This same method can be used on concrete or brick walls, but there is one key difference. The hole might have an irregular shape, making it slightly more difficult to cut matching a drywall patch. Here's how to fix it. First, trace the hole's shape onto the back of a drywall piece using a pencil. Then, cut along the outline with a utility knife, removing only the gypsum core while keeping the paper backing intact. Third, apply joint compound around the patch edges and press it into the hole. 4. Smooth it out with a putty knife, ensuring there are no gaps or bubbles. 5. Once dry, sand it smooth and apply paint just like before. After drying, the repair should be completely seamless. Even if you inspect it closely, you shouldn't be able to tell where the hole was. Now that the paint is dried, let's take a final look at the repair. As you can see, we have no more visible holes, a smooth, strong finish, and we know it works well on both drywall and concrete. As you can see, this method is fast, simple, and highly effective. No need for wooden strips or complicated framing. If you found this video helpful, leave a like and comment below. And if you enjoy DIY projects, make sure to subscribe. I regularly upload home improvement tutorials to make your projects easier. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.